Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
It is 6:35, and this is the board of the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union. We are meeting tonight in the auditorium of the Bells Falls Union High School. What I'd like to start the evening by doing, as we always do, introductions of who's here. And we'll start with the people in the room, and then we'll add the folks who are online, and then we get to an adjustment to the agenda and so on and so forth. So I'm going to start from my furthest left. State your name and your position.
Thank you, Jack. Jason Terry, Rockingham.
Lynn Morgan, Athens.
Jim McAuliffe, Rockingham School Board.
Priscilla Lambert, representing Rockingham and clerk of this board.
I'm Jack Breyer, and I chair this board for another couple of weeks.
Molly Bannock, representing Westminster for the Bellows Falls Union High School.
Andy Haas, Superintendent of Schools.
Cheryl Charles, chair of the Westminster board.
Karen Blanchard, Westminster Board.
Ricky Adams, Technology. Jim Bazina, Finance.
All right, and moving to the folks who are with us remotely, there's a couple of folks where your names don't pop up, so after I've introduced the people I can see, you may need to introduce yourselves when I just say call you out and ask you to speak. We'll start with Hardy Merrill. Hardy, introduce yourself.
I'm Hardy Merrill, WNESU D, Grafton, Vermont.
Mr. Kibbe.
Christopher Kibbe, Rockingham School Board and treasurer of the WNESU.
All right, Kathy Siano.
Kathy Siano Goodwin, Athens Grafton Board.
I think I see Deb Wright over there.
Yeah, Deb Wright, representing the Rockingham High School, Bells Falls Union High School for a few more weeks.
All right, if there are other folks on and there look like there might be, you just speak up now and introduce yourself, because the screen here doesn't identify you, unfortunately.
So I believe that the purple, just under Hardy, is Terry Darrow, who is your notate your.
All right.
In the bottom left is Kate O'Connor, our media and communications. The middle one with the W is, I believe, Whitney Patterson, school nurse here at the high school. And surely I'm not 100% sure what that is.
All right, who's the fellow next to the pre-debit?
That's me.
Oh, well,
Because
what do you know?
Because I'm connected with two devices.
All right, my vision is, could stand some improvement, don't get me my way when I drive. All right, pardon?
I believe Shirley is a community
We
member.
waste so much time. It's just,
Well, in any case, everyone here is a voting member with one exception, is that correct?
I am not.
All right. So, adjustments to the agenda. I have one ad under new business. It's attendance tracking mechanism, and we'll get to that, I hope, in brief form this evening at that point. Communications and public comment.
I had one other, Jack, I'm sorry. One other adjustment.
Suggest a way.
Yeah, the finance committee met, so I should just report out very quickly on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll make that an 8B finance.
you got it, you got it.
Or
B3.
6A1.
No, that's not true.
Oh,
All right,
Central Office.
B, oh yeah, sorry.
6B3.
Buildings and grounds policy and B3 finance. Got it, thank you.
Jack, also on the agenda I just got, it doesn't have the January 4 minutes.
Oh, right, let's do, the other meetings with us tonight, do we have them? Because we had
Yes.
specifically asked to do that.
Yeah.
So
She
let's put a
I saw the
three,
18th and the 1st.
She sent it to us this afternoon.
Which one?
in any case, let's at least put on here as an item 12, and we'll move it up, is approval minutes. And that's approval minutes of what dates again?
January 4, 18, and February 1.
January 4th, 18th,
Right here.
and February 1st.
I'll make that motion.
It's on,
Oh, it is on one, it's all right.
you just don't have January 4th on that. She sent those two out.
January 4th.
and
All
corrected
right,
them.
thank you for that.
Corrected it this
As I said,
afternoon.
I'm a little bit, I'm having some visual issues.
It's fine.
Okay, made the changes. Thank you. Moving on, as I said, to communications and public comment, we weren't sure if we were going to have a large crowd or a non-existent crowd this evening, and it appears that the non-existent is what worked. But if there are members of the public, well, with one notable exception, and I do see a couple folks on the screen, one of whom's got their hand up. So I'm going to assume. No, that's not a hand. It's not a hand. Oh, that's you. All right. The folks who look like members of the public, I'm trying to guess, are Shirley, Melissa, and Tyler. And if you would like to speak, just speak now. This would be the time. I'm hearing a sound of silence. We can come back to that if we need to. Let's move on then to review and approve board minutes for January 4th, January 18th, and February 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion to that
So
effect? Moved by Jakes, thank you, sir. And a second, I believe.
Second.
Second from Molly. Is there any discussion of there, especially if there are typos, errors, etc.?
I didn't see any, but.
Jack,
Yes.
were all three of those sent out? I only received January 18th, but I remember.
Came today.
Late, no, I missed a bit.
So you didn't get all of them? Did anyone else get, is anyone else missing them?
I'm missing 4th and 1st.
I'm going to just, as I
It
often
was,
do.
she sent it out this afternoon.
Yeah, well,
She sent
sending it out this afternoon is probably not,
We put it
timely.
off 3 times.
And I'm open to waiting if people want to. Do we want to go ahead, given the majority got them? What would you, what's the?
Take the vote. Take the vote.
All right, let's do that. I would certainly expect when you do either vote against it on general principle or vote to abstain, considering. So I'm going to take the roll call from the screen, and I'll start with you, Hardy.
Approved. Yes.
Suddenly I can't hear, but
Me neither.
I vote yes, if you can.
All right. We'll see what we can do on our end. Let's see. Can't see who's down there. Jake, you voted yes, or have you voted yet?
Yeah.
I abstained.
Lynn's abstaining. Priscilla?
Yes.
Molly?
No.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And do we have anybody else down there? Is that, did I get everybody? Okay, got everybody. I believe the ayes have it on this. And we're going to move along to reports, beginning with finance.
While Jim distributes his report, can you hear us on Zoom? Hardy, can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Whitby?
We can hear. We can hear.
Not very loud, but we can hear you.
Gotta use the mic, is that better?
It's always better with a mic.
So if we could, Jack, if we could try and use the mics, and when you use them, you have to talk directly into the microphone. So,
I mean, you have to, like, get it as close.
yeah.
So we'll test it here. I don't know. Is this working at all?
No,
Try to turn it on.
play games.
All right. I usually have what's known as the second and fourth balcony voice. It's almost shocking when people can't hear me.
Andy, help him with this.
Yeah, we're apparently not being heard. I still find it funny.
Okay. All right, Jim.
So I am on page 1.
Yep.
That's a function page, and it gives you kind of an overview for the SU of where we are. Looking down, and again, I think food service tends to stand out as it has in the past. You'll see that way over on the right, it says 614,544. That means we're short, maybe. But I guess I want to mention to you, keep in mind that at this time, we have encumbered all salaries to date, and we've got 5 months left. Food, we've encumbered what we think we're gonna need, and so it's a lopsided view right now, because you've got 5 months, which we haven't had any revenues in. And actually, probably been more than the 6 months that the revenues are missing. Now, if you would like to go to the last page, which is 16. And on 16, you can see we have revenue of 938,000, which, again, we've got 5 months more of revenue, and I think that'll bring us in 200,000 plus the assessment. If you recall, there's $180,000 that the board assessed for food service. So I think you're going to balance out okay. I think it just, when you start to pull back and look what's in back of the curtain, I think you're going to be all right. And I think those are the big ones. Again, I think needing 428,000 right now to balance out, I think they're going to do well, at least that. So Jack, what can I answer for you?
Well, it might be questions of other folks before I ask mine. But Jake, do you have a question?
I do on the transportation item. I noticed in looking at the detail that this is on page 11, I'm sorry.
What page did you?
I heard page 11.
Page 11.
Asked.
The non-technology repairs seems to be the gorilla in the room.
Yep, and I will say and be frank, you have a lot of old buses. And the way the busing operation works is this. Normally, people will run them for 10 years. And after that time, most of your contractors will start to see more investment in mechanical repairs and stuff after 10 years. You're running into that. Now, Andy is looking at trying to purchase some buses through ESSER or one of the grants, and to see if we can get some replacement, because we're behind. We're behind in our replacements. But But that's what that is about. I mean, we're in a point where we're, even last year, we were short on the budget. And we're putting more money into repairs. And again, I will say this, a lot of the contractors have a mechanic on duty. We don't. We're having to go out to some mechanic out on the street and say, hey, we need some help.
Okay, I mean, I just think that the whole bus situation, as far as this board member is concerned, is not clear. You know, I get the impression we have too many buses, we have some old buses.
Yeah.
But the key, until we get some new buses, is how we manage the maintenance of the buses we have.
Right.
And so we're just at not your mercy, but at the mercy of whoever's making those repair decisions. I hope they're being made appropriately.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So Jim, just so you're aware, I have asked, Renee is our transportation supervisor. She is on the agenda, I believe, for March or April to come and do a presentation of just kind of where we are, the state of the bus situation. I had to push her out a little bit, just she's driving because we're down a driver and trying to put those things together. But she's working with Stanley Budzik, you know, our former supervisor also, just on we lost a couple of years of like where we were with buses and stuff like that. So they're putting that back together so we can get on a schedule to replace buses and whatnot. So, but she is going to be coming to the board to discuss that.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to include also, understand that every school district in the state of Vermont is really in a tough position with the bus drivers. They can't find them. And even your contractors, Butler Bus in Springfield, Butler Bus in Hartford, First Student over in Keene, they're having a tough time of it. I mean, this is not easy times to be in the bus business.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from our folks remotely this evening? Two questions for me, if nobody else got one. One is, you mentioned in one place that we have a deficit of, let's see, was it 428 and change?
Yeah.
And you also mentioned the revenue. So are we in a, just making sure that I've got the circle squared here properly, how's our liquidity? Do we have money in the bank? Is that 428 what we're borrowing? I'm not quite sure. It's not clear here which is which.
It's strange that you should bring that up.
Good.
Okay, so last we talked about cash flow. We said we had from fiscal year 22, $1,850,000. Now, and I circled it on the revenue page, which is a second one in. I don't know which one that is, but so the state has sent us an invoice for unspent special education costs. That's in the tune of $468,000. Now, on the page, the second page in, I'll tell you which one. So that's page 15. All right. So you'll see on page 15, that circled item says $1,896,000. Well, you know, this is a fiscal year 22 reduction. And we've asked the auditor to lower 22 where it belongs, because I don't want to mix up. I mean, revenue and expense coming back from the state, I don't want to confuse them. So, does that mean I'm running out of time?
No. Sorry.
So anyways, 22 is not gonna be 1.850.
Yep.
22 is gonna be 1.850 minus 467,000. That's what you're gonna have as a bottom line.
So 1,000,004, basically.
Yes.
All right.
So this circled item would have come back up to what it was last month, which is I think it's 2.8, something like that. Because there's 2/3 that they've paid, there's 1/3 more that'll be paid in April or May.
All right. But I mean, when we talked about this previously, not to cramp the finance reports in any way, we talked about this, we talked about being our own banker if we had liquidity issues.
Yes.
Are we being held up in terms of a remit from the state over this money in any way, shape, or form that's messing this up?
Well, and I talked with last meeting about SAM.gov, which we are necessitating to need to be a part of. We've had, it seems like 10 months of trying to get on there. We've got Westminster, who was a new entity coming in. We've got them finally on. We've got one payment out. So they're promised us they'd catch up within a week's time. So that we were trying to, because that was, geez, I want to say it was about 1.8 million for Westminster, but I think we're doing okay cash-wise.
So, yeah, but in terms of liquidity, are we having, we're fine on a, cash on hand basis?
Yes.
Okay. And this business about the block grant issue, is this going to affect us in terms of our, some folks made estimates of the current end of year surpluses, and I'm just wondering if those are now starting to be in question.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I think we'll be okay. And as I say, when you're using surplus money like we have, you're better off always saying up to. And that kind of caps you, because if you only get $1, that's what you're going to expend. Right. So I always would encourage you, when you're dealing with surplus monies, go up to, because that makes you safe.
Right. Any other questions anyone have? Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute, sorry.
Going back to the transportation issue, I know that 2 years ago, I think it's two.
Priscilla, could you raise your voice just a little bit?
See if this helps you.
I'm sorry. I know that 2 years ago, we had listed a breakdown of when we were replacing buses, and then COVID hit us. And so we went out. I think if we could find that for Renee, it might be helpful.
She's got the schedule with the years and everything else on it.
Okay.
But the problem is, I think we've been
put it off.
Well, Renee's new, I was new, Andy was new, and anybody on the board was new. But some of us haven't had the longevity. So I think there's been a lot of turnover, but we do have that list. We just need the money and the ability, the grants and the wherewithal to get it done and to get on a replacement cycle, because I will say this, if you hold on to it over 10 years' time, you're gonna pay. And I guess you'd have to have a substantial budget knowing that you're gonna hang on, because even in last year, we were short money on the repairs budget. So,
to my colleague, Mr. Riccal's point, we did have a schedule at one point, and one of the key criteria is that we would not hold on to buses past that 10-year. In fact, I think it was actually shorter than that. It was essentially when the extended warranty ran out. And the fact that we're even having this discussion, I'll look forward to having it when the transportation folks are here. I won't be part of it, but somebody will be looking forward to having that conversation when the time comes.
well, we hope we're going to get a little clarity tomorrow at 12:30?
Yeah, we have a meeting with the state at 12:30. One of the issues that when you make a purchase using federal dollars is you have to do a purchase versus lease, like breakdown. And we followed the same procedure that we used when we purchased a couple of vans. And for some reason, I don't know if it's because of the dollar amount or something, but the state came back and said, you need more. And we said, what more? And we got radio silence. I know, Chris, you're a little shocked at hearing the radio silence from the state. We did ask for a meeting on multiple different things, and so that's one of the things we're gonna tie up. We got the top person that's in charge of it, so I think we'll get it cleared up and get it moved through, which will give us, right now, we can pick a bus up almost right away, and then look to maybe purchase one at the end of the year, and then as we get into next year, using some ARP funds, purchase a couple more buses, but instead of just, trying to buy them all at once. Because the buses aren't even, they're like everything else, there's just not a whole bunch of them sitting around.
Right.
Got it. I'm going to be also very cognizant of our time.
Yep.
Let's move. Thank you all.
Okay.
Superintendent report.
I should have asked for this at adjustments to agenda, but may I ask if Ricky Adams could go, just because I don't know how many, if there's a lot of questions on my report, I don't want him to have to sit here too long if he doesn't need to.
All right, without objection, we'll switch 3 and 2.
Sure.
All right, Rick, you're up.
Sure, hand it off, in case you guys didn't see it.
Thank you.
Not gonna lie, we can check and see who's read it or not. I hate paper, so this pains me.
It's a balance, that's not versus your projection. It's where you are at in terms of your expense, it's like the things we expend early in the year.
I understand that.
No, all that is your balance. Okay, so do you want to talk to your material here?
Not at all. This is working, right?
Yes.
It is. So I'm encouraging you to speak to your report.
Yeah, so I wanted to start off with some quick notes about our department, just because I'm not sure it's widely known. So we're a small department of 3. We cover about 1,000.
Folks, I want Rick to be heard, so we can't compete with him while we're speaking. Go ahead, Rick.
We're a small department of 3. We cover about 1,000 devices for students, about 350 devices for staff, was a lot more. Information technology is like a broad term, and we cover a lot. It's almost like anything that plugs into power ends up falling into our domain in some way. And in a lot of ways, it's not wrong. Like even at the high school here, we have some smart ovens that connect to the internet. So there's a lot of things. In the report, I tried to capture some of the highlights from just recent activity. I also wanted to kind of preface just a quick big thank you to Andrew Petruski and Jamie Danzero, our 2 other technicians, for all their hard work in keeping us running. We don't see enough recognition, so I just want to put that out there. I did not prepare like a slide deck or anything, in an effort to keep it short. I think you guys might remember the copier presentation. We'd be here all night. So I'm just gonna glance through the report and maybe talk about a few items on it, and then if there's any questions, we'll go from there. So we primarily use the help desk to address support. Most of our things still come in as emails, etc. So the help desk really, we end up having to funnel into, but since the beginning of the year, July 1, we've done about 2,200 tickets, including, that would include material submitted by some students, some family members, so like parents can email our help desk and we'll support the best that we can. So that's about 66 tickets per week. That's a lot of tickets once you realize I included vacation weeks. For teachers, I'm gonna skip that part, or maybe I'll just do a quick note on that. Kind of the pressing issue for next year is replacing teacher computers. Right now, they have an aging, we have an aging fleet of MacBooks, so similar to your bus situation, you gotta replace this stuff once the warranties run out. It'll start dropping like flies, so we're starting to see batteries not hold the charge for the whole day, which is very inconvenient. We're hoping to make a move to Chromebooks for staff, which is highly controversial, I'm not going to lie. There's this desire to stick with the environment that everyone knows, but we feel Chromebooks might be a more secure and cost-effective solution. It's not the same device that students receive. It's a much more high-end device. It costs quite a bit more money, but it's still less than we would pay for a similar Apple product. I just wanted to highlight that here because I wanted it in written somewhere. This is kind of where we're headed. Moving on, I'm trying to touch a little on cybersecurity, but that's a huge thing. Like cybersecurity is a rabbit hole in and of itself. At some point this year, we're going to probably assemble a small committee to help towards writing some plans. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's kind of like trade secret. It's not stuff that you just actively talk about. But one quick note I wanted to put in was that we're going to start enforcing like multi-factor authentication. You probably deal with it when you like check your bank and all that. This year and into next for any service that has data, like student data, staff data, like our data on it. We worked in the beginning of the year with CyberPools, who was recommended by VisVet, and we did a cyber risk assessment. So there's various key items on there that we're going to work through and prioritize first to address. I would share that, but again, it's almost like that trade secret material, so maybe once we correct it, we'll share it out. We've been doing some work with the maintenance folks. Right now, we have 3, I'd say, very well-aged servers that run our HVAC systems. The goal is to centralize those servers onto equipment kind of managed by IT, because right now it's in secret. That shows how old it is, because I've been here for 10 years, some of it's well over 10 years. The next item that we're kind of on fire right now with is E-rate. So this is E-rate season for schools. Usually you start that off with a Form 470, which is basically competitive bidding. We've just completed our competitive bidding process. We're looking to award our internet services bid. So E-rate, internet services, is reimbursement for funds we spend on internet. It's a rate determined by your free and reduced count. So we're looking to award that bid soon. It's about $2,850 a month for the whole district. Just throw some numbers in there. We're supporting the business office with their transition to Innovisions, which seems like it'll be a really good move for the district. I think that's the only note I have on that. It seems well put together. Wanted to highlight some of the bigger hazard projects that we've been directly involved in. One of them is replacing our aging fleet of smart boards and projectors that honestly were probably installed the last time we had a grant like ESSER. Seems to be how some of these things get replaced. So most of our buildings, 2011, 2012, I don't know what grant was around back then, but most of that equipment is from that time. So 10 years is definitely it's more than time to replace that stuff. So the interactive flat panel project, that's somewhere around right around 100 boards. And that's about $265,000 that we spent on that project. It's a lot of money. It's something that we should really have a plan to replace, 7 to 10 years from now. Like most of these ESSER projects, even outside of the technology realm, you're probably going to want to see some sort of capital reserve to maintain the investments that you're making. The next big one is network overhaul. I want to start this with, we've made attempts at schools to budget to replace network infrastructure. The difficulty is when you're trying to get everybody onto one platform and the school district does not vote in the affirmative on the budget, and you have to cut that from the budget. Now it's, do you do the whole platform or do you reprioritize your budgetary needs to some other piece of equipment and hope for a future consolidation of technology, which I think we have next year, or a grant to come along that can help support that upgrade. Thankfully, we have a grant, we can get our upgrade done. That's about $300,000. $50,000 of that is just professional services to help us make sure everything is safe and secure, and we're not going to get hacked tomorrow, hopefully. There's well over 200 components involved in the upgrade. It's been going since I feel like March of last year, between the back order of equipment and actually getting contractor time to work with us. The latest one right now is camera and door access control system project. That's between $400,000 and $500,000. It's a lot of cameras. There's a lot behind that project. We just concluded the bid for that, and we're evaluating the bids that we received. We have 3 bidders, which is great, although 2 of the bids have some problems, so it's making it difficult. And then last part, I wanted to highlight that we have a technology plan. It's not required to be approved by any board or entity. It's not required to be submitted by the state anymore. So it's more of a guiding document for us as we work. It's public and available on our website. There's 3 topics, 14 goals, and about 38 sub-goals in that plan. A lot of progress has been made on some of those sub-goals. So like network infrastructure is a sub-goal on there, and we made a lot of progress on it. There are items that need additional support immediately, honestly, is addressing digital citizenship in our schools. So we're trying to find the best mechanism to address that, whether it's in classroom time. I don't want to go into the leads with the instructional with all the non-instructional, but right now we're planning to come together as a technology committee later in February and hopefully start to address some of those needs that we haven't been able to address yet. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Anyone? How about Karen?
Yeah, it's really about this digital citizenship. What you're talking about, Ricky, is working with the students to have, what are some of the challenges that requires, in other words, the digital citizenship? What are you thinking about? Did you hear me?
Did you guys hear that?
I did.
You didn't?
Can you use the mic, please?
Yes, sorry.
All right.
I asked about the digital citizenship. I was just curious about what some of the challenges are with the students and sort of the intent.
Let me preface with, we're not educators, so we usually coordinate with educators, Deb Carding, Director of Innovation Instruction, Curriculum. So some of the challenges right now is, I would say, finding and adopting a curriculum or a process to actually integrate that into how every school is a little unique, so how you integrate like the actual curriculum in schools can be very different. Some schools, they might integrate a little bit in the classroom, a lot of it during like library time, right? Some of them, you might not have a full-time, part-time, maybe 1 day a week librarian, so that would be a real challenge. So like, I think Saxon River Elementary School might have like one day a week or something, don't quote me, but like that would be a real challenge to integrate during that time. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions from anyone here? Not seeing any. How are we doing on the website? We had discussed, and I wrote it down from a discussion we had ages ago, that February 13th was going to be we were going to get it done by, and I'm just wondering where we're at, because there's still a few holes I'm seeing, and maybe just you know, in terms of navigability and things all filled out. Is everything filled out now? Are all the pages complete?
I guess I don't know what February 15th deadline.
Well, we had said, you know, I'd pressed you about, you know, when we could say for sure it was done. Because originally it was going to be the summer, then it was going to be this fall. And I wrote down that date from the discussion. I thought it was when we both, I'm just wondering, where are we at without pressing you on it, you know? Are we there yet, as they say?
I would say we're getting closer. WNESU now has a, I can't remember her exact title, community, Kate O'Connor, I don't remember. I'm sorry, it's basically PR. I know that she's doing a lot of work on the websites to help address some of those concerns that you have.
All right.
So,
that may be.
From what I can tell, when she started and now it's gotten a whole heck of a lot better. We're definitely making progress. I gotta say, I don't know what the February date is. If I said anything, it probably would have been the beginning of school, which we definitely didn't.
I had that one down.
Definitely didn't make.
All right.
Be great.
There are still holes, and we're finding some of those holes, and we start on one project, and then, you know, we get hackers calling in on you know, making bomb threats kind of thing, and that derails everything, and we got to pull everybody and go to those resources, and so that start and stop is never helpful, but, yeah. You know, but we are noticing some things, and like in updating pages, and so now as people are getting more settled in, you know, Shelley Wilson is tackling stuff about 504s and MTSS, so some of those pages you're gonna see developing, because Kate can't get it all done, but like people need to update their pages.
That's fair. One other note, just looking at the planning committee members, all the stakeholders I can imagine are here, except there's nobody from board. And I would just say, we do have some board members who are tech savvy, and perhaps as an item to consider come March after town meeting is to get either a committee together or at least a couple of members so that they can be aware of what's going on, and also be a report outlet so that it can be done to a committee rather than necessarily the whole board.
I agree. We'll definitely consider that. I want to highlight, because he was very helpful, Charlie Hutchison, who is part of our committee. He helps greatly with items on the plan.
All right. I didn't see his name here, but perhaps I just missed it. That would be fine. I know Jessa was at one time, but this, in fact, it still lists her. And it lists, I think, a student who I'm not sure has graduated, but maybe not. So that was the reason why I wanted to pick that up. And yes, I'm not quite, you'll have to help me out.
Is that coming to the board so that we can approve curriculum? Because that's a board function, I think.
Let's add that as an item a little later on here, and we'll take care of that. I don't think it's a Rick item. And I will make just a note for committee updates, and I'm just going to add a B5 curriculum, and we'll talk about that briefly at that point. Rick, I think you're off the hook, and that brings the superintendent up and lets you get home.
Thank you.
Are we okay if we release Mr. Bazina as well, or?
Oh, I think we just keep him trapped indefinitely. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to try and navigate a whole bunch of things here. So I gave out my report, and I can answer some questions, but I really wanted to go over the PCB just because it's such a hot topic, and wanted to share this presentation. So let me just pull this up and see what I can do to make this a little better. Okay. So as we all know, PCB has been a really controversial topic and talked about throughout the state. And so just trying to put together just a short, just brief, kind of get board members up to speed on kind of where we are and kind of how we got to where we are. As of right now, we've had, and we'll talk about this, we've had one of our schools tested, Westminster's been tested. We haven't gotten the results back yet. The high school is slated for later, I think next week in February. So what we'll talk about is the ABCs and PCBs, the AOV guidance thus far, our response, and then answer any questions that we can. And again, I'm not going to read this. I did put it out earlier, but you know, PCBs are a class of compounds that had numerous commercial uses in the U.S. from 1929 until 1979. So, like this building was built right around that time. So, not in 29, but in 70. So, therefore, it was used a lot in insulation and electrical equipment, and so it's kind of become a factor of looking at PCBs and as they move around in the air, in the rooms, and the health concerns are decades. Scientific research have demonstrated that PCBs can cause a variety of harmful health effects, including cancerous and non-cancerous effects. So how we kind of got here, the histories of it. Burlington High School was tested in September of 2020. And Vermont passed Act 74 in June of 2021, which set some limits. The Department of Health memo on PCBs came out in November of 2021, and then the AOE released operational guidance in December of 2022. So there is a difference in that's used for screening levels. The screening level is based on the lowest of the cancer and non-cancerous values, with the target cancer set to 1 extra case in 1 million people exposed. So the SALs accept a slightly greater cancer risk to adults who work at schools for 30 years than a Vermont screening level. So specifically the Vermont High School SAL of 100 nanograms, right, parts per million, I got that right, something like that, may present an increased lifetime cancer risk to an adult, approximately 6 extra cases of cancer per 1 million people exposed, based on a 30-year exposure duration of 9.7 hours per day and 235 days per year. So it's a very low risk that someone could actually be exposed, is the bottom line of that. So the guidance defines occupationally options based on levels found in classrooms. So we have screening levels, then we have school action level, and then we have immediate action level. And it also outlines the need for community communication, recommends to develop a plan for temporary occupancy, alternative spaces, mitigation, remediation. So you've all heard of Burlington. Burlington had to close their entire school down. They're now in a Macy's. Our friends to the south of us, they've had certain classrooms that have gone down. And so then those classrooms, they're not able to use those classrooms, but then they're able to use the classroom right next door because that had the lower numbers. So, but those are the plans that they're talking about, is how we're going to move things around. Testing and notification can take up to 16 weeks. It includes pre-sampling, inventory of the building, community notification of testing, consultant conducts the sampling and sends the samples to the lab. We got health and DEC review, and then they provide a letter to the school. In addition to action needed, the SU contracts with the consultant to develop a corrective action plan, and then determine occupancy solutions. So that's what we would have to do if we got back with something that came back hot. So the Vermont guidance, the other piece is that where they have is pre-kindergarten, you can only have the 30 nanograms, whereas kindergarten to 6th grade can have 60 nanograms, and then grade 7 through adult can have 100 nanograms. And so in some of our buildings, we have pre-kindergartners and we also have, K through 6. So, so there's a challenge there. But then like at our middle school, we have 5th and 6th graders, and then we have 7th and 8th graders. And unfortunately, you have to go with the lower number, but like, to use an example, if a pre-kindergarten or preschool class room came back higher than the 30 parts, then we would have to move that classroom. But if that classroom was higher than 60, we could move kindergarten through 6th grade into it. But, we've got to weigh out that risk of putting kids in there. But that's some of the kind of craziness of this. But then what's below that right there is just a breakdown from the US guidance on these same PCBs. And you'll see the difference that at age 3 through 6, it's at 100, not at whereas Vermont's at 30 for that same age group. And then it goes up. So Vermont has some very low and very tight numbers. So under temporary occupancy options, so under option 1, a district or a supervisory union can use a limited set of spaces for a specific number of hours per week and need to address the PCB sources within 1 year. So we could come back and a classroom could be high, but we could still use it for a portion of the day. That's part of what we could figure out. And then option 2 and 3, we can use a large set of spaces for a large number of hours, but due to the heightened health risk, we would need to begin mitigation of the PCB sources within 6 weeks. And the first step to begin mitigation is to hire a consultant and go down that route. One of the things that I've talked with fellow superintendents is even if you mitigate, you can't even hit these numbers these numbers here that are on the school action level, that it's extremely difficult to hit those numbers. So
I'm listening to this, making my head explode. If any of you've got a Teflon pan and cook dinner with it tonight, you're going to generate a PCB level in your kitchen that's higher than what's being allowed here. I produced Greenpeace's program for a number of years nationally, and these numbers are scientifically illiterate. I appreciate they're well-intentioned, but good heavens, this is not scientifically informed data. And having to have any prospect of having to move kids around between rooms when there's a hallway, which probably because you've got Illinois 4 has more PCB there than it does in the individual classrooms, shows somebody put this together that is not a scientist, is not an engineer, and didn't think it through. I find it really weird that I'm on the side of saying these are too strict regulations, but these are kind of nuts.
yeah, so the funding source, I won't go through that, but that's a breakdown of how it would happen if we ran into a problem, and how much the AOE would contribute, how much the school district would be responsible for. So just going over some of the testing dates. So Westminster School was tested in July of 2022. The high school here was slated for any time between January and March, so we know it's going to be next week. Saxon's River Elementary School is slated for April. Bellows Falls Middle School is also slated for April, and then Central Elementary School has been pushed out to 2025 at this point. So essentially, we had to flip and to get the high school moved up, they had to flip it with something, and so it was Central Elementary School. I may go back and see if I can get Central pushed up to around where Saxon River is because of the date when Central was built. So, but that takes some negotiation with the state and the contractor.
We, just in the interest of time.
Yep, yeah, I'm gonna fly through this. So what can we be doing now? We can minimize potential risk to students. we can identify possible partners that if we need to relocate, and we can inform families and get this information out. So that's what we're trying to do at this point. We also know that we can improve our ventilation systems, which we're working on doing that. We can identify possible sources of PCB. I've checked with all of our maintenance staff. We have taken out all the ballasts. All light ballasts have been removed from all our schools, which is a big piece to do it. The next thing is looking at potential caulking that may contain PCBs, and then going in and trying to, you can encapsulate it at that point. So we can also look at reviewing our cleaning protocols and cleaning out ductwork. Again, we need to identify areas where we might need to relocate. That's a challenge in here, but we don't have a big area.
Have we been told we're high yet?
No, we have not. We do not know we're high, but we need to start planning for that and looking at if we had to, what would we do, type of thing. Just message the families, and here we are. So.
All right. Well, thank you. I've learned more about state regulations of this than I ever wanted to know.
And we'll have this up on our website after this.
Are there any questions for Mr. Haas on this or any other superintendent-related subject?
Go ahead. If you're right, Jack, about how low these regs are, then is the Superintendent's Association or the Principals Association, are they
pushing back? That's a great question.
We are, and we've actually, in December, the Southeast Regional Superintendents met with our legislators, and that was high on our agenda to them, that they need to go back and look at these numbers. And there has been some discussion about adjusting the numbers and moving them closer to the national average as opposed to where we are. So.
Well, you're also pushing monitoring devices capability of actually measuring things at these levels. Yes, go ahead, Cheryl.
Thank you. First of all, I'm not sure if this is on. Is this
Cheryl, I can't hear you, so that would be.
Pull it up, push it up.
We'll try again.
This one's a little thin here. Hang on.
All right, sorry about that.
No.
I used it before, I went like that.
It's a little finicky, so let me just.
What?
No, this one works.
Thank you. First of all, one quick question. The Westminster assessment was done in July of 22, and we still don't have those results. Is that correct?
That is my understanding. That's how backed up people are.
All right. I wanted to comment on your overall superintendent's report, to thank you for it. I really appreciate getting ahead of time and writing as you've done. And one big component of it this time, at the request of a number of folks, was detail about where we are with each of the three ESSER grants, the three big sets of monies. And there's a lot of detail there. I do have some questions, but I think if the ESSER committee could meet again soon, and then maybe go through it in even more detail. But for now, just a big thank you for all the detail in your report.
I just also want to point out that there's still some cleaning up that needs to be done on that report, but we wanted to get it to you. We noticed afterwards. And so we will continue to update the board with those same things.
All right. Well, thank you for all of that, Mr. Haas. I'm going to move on without objection to committee updates, and we have buildings and grounds, policy, finance, and a question about curriculum, because it's actually, we do have a curriculum committee that hasn't met all year. Buildings and grounds, this is you.
We have a building and grounds committee meeting scheduled for February 22nd at 5:30 at the SU office. We'll be discussing our visits to the schools and what our future plan should be.
Thank you.
At 5:30?
5:30 on the February 22nd, correct?
That is correct.
Moving on to policy.
The policy committee met and policy E1 Part A, parent and family engagement should be on the website, so we should start looking at that. We are also meeting again next week on February 21st at 5:30, as there is one other policy that is required that the state has added, which is student conduct and discipline. That is our old F1, and there's a lot of changes that we are looking at, as the new criteria is different from what it was when that one was done originally. So any input from anybody would be appreciated.
So Priscilla, we're anticipating having these up for formal approval at our next meeting, is that correct?
At least the E1 will have been 10 days that it's been posted, so yes. And hopefully the other, if the other one has been also 10 days once it's posted, then yes.
All right, and when do you, what's the date on the next policy meeting?
February 21st at 5:30.
February 21st at 5:30, so people that are in both have a busy week ahead of them. Finance, Ms. Kivy, Ken, you're up.
Okay, we met last week. The purpose of the discussion was to assure that the WNESU did not run out of cash this fiscal year as we approach the end of the year and the last major payroll run. The reason that this is potentially a problem is that all of the federal grants are now reimbursement grants. And if, and we hope they will, some of these ESSER projects are approved in the next couple of months, the SU will be in the position of having to put money up front to start these projects. And so that could affect the cash standing of the supervisory union. Long story short, the member districts are actually fine as far as cash goes. We decided that the best thing to do was to collect the last 3 assessments in one group. So they've been assessed on a monthly basis. So the last 3 payments will be assessed in one chunk. It shouldn't affect the member districts at all, and it will make sure that the SU has cash to meet its obligations. And then after the end of the fiscal year, we'll look at that again and see how these projects are going and how things stand, and see if we might need to do kind of the same thing again. But that's a decision down the road. And that's it. I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Questions along my line here? Anybody on the line? Yep, any of you guys? Not hearing any. Not that they won't contact you or ask later. When are you meeting next, Chris?
I'm sorry, Jack, I couldn't quite make out what you said.
I'm saying I didn't hear anybody ask a question, and I asked your next scheduled meeting date, if you have one at this point.
We don't at this point. No.
All right. Well, obviously the 21st and 22nd, the dance card is filling up, so I'll look with anticipation for when you get the date in there. All
well,
right.
we're going to have new members and potentially new boards, so we kind of need to wait.
Next up, let's see, what do we have? We had a question.
Curriculum.
Yes, there was a question about curriculum. We do have an educational effectiveness committee online. There was a specific question about curriculum. Priscilla, do you want to raise it tonight, or is this something that should wait?
We just need to be sure that we are looking at the technology that's being put out there so that we can approve that curriculum, because that's part of our job.
I would agree, and I think this is probably going to be something that will roll over to the new board after elections, but I think it's a good point, and that committee is a useful one, and we should have it become active again. All right, thank you. That's it for committee updates, as far as I can tell. We're on to item 7, which is sort of the big one for tonight, is the superintendent contract. I'm anticipating someone will be moving to put us into executive session because it is a contract matter.
But Jack, we've already discussed it, we've already looked at the contract, and it's a public document, so do we really need a?
Well, I think it's because we're negotiating a segment of that document, and it is somebody's contract. I appreciate the point made, but this point was made the last meeting as well. And it's my ruling that if anyone wishes to move this to be in executive session, that I would, and board votes to do so, I would look favorably on that. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? Or do people?
I'll make the motion.
All right. Do I have a second on this? Okay, I have a second from Molly, and I'm going to ask that we take a vote on that. Sorry for the confusion. Chris? I think you said yes, but I couldn't hear him.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, if you ask me.
Did I miss somebody on? Oh, Kat, Deb. Oh,
Yeah,
Deb,
yes, aye.
It had a bigger picture, Deb. That's really all I asked. So that was an aye for you, Deb? Yes. All right.
Yes.
No.
Jiggs?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
All right, then we are going into executive session as of 7:41 to discuss a contract matter where premature discussion or would be to disadvantage one or more parties. It is 7:57 and we are out of executive session. I'm anticipating a motion. Cheryl, do you have that motion?
I move that we accept the revised superintendent's contract and have it be signed on behalf of the board by the chair.
All right, need a second?
Second.
I'm going to move, first deal with the folks on the line, and Hardy, what say you?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Oh, yes, sorry, I did that before. Deb, my apologies. Deb?
Aye. Aye.
All right, going from my left over, Lynn?
Yes.
Jakes?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Cheryl? Yes. And Karen?
Yes.
All right, very good. Then we've got unanimity on that. And that business,
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
business is taken care of. Have a quick one, an 8A. Molly, track attendance, tell us about what this is.
I was asked to have that added to the agenda so that we would start talking about it. We have a board member that's not a part of the SU board that would like us to look at how we track teacher attendance. Where is that listed? Do they use a time clock? How do we know? So I think it was really just a suggestion of what tools do we use and do we at this point. And so that's the only reason we added to the agenda, is to hope that we get some feedback later on.
Unless there's an objection, I'd like to refer that to our IT folks to get back to us.
So I can speak a little bit to it,
All right.
but I think we can get back some more. So we do use an online program called Subs Online that does track attendance. So if I'm out, that has to be put in for every employee that works in our SU. Subs Online has been sunset. And so We are looking at the potential of Infinite Visions might actually have an add-on that we can use that talks to the payroll very well, and so it will give us a more accurate, but I think Ricky can articulate it much better than I just did, but we can, because sometimes online is a little clunky.
All right, well, I will anticipate that he or you will report on this at the next meeting, and if there's more discussion that's warranted, we can do that. All right, you know what that means? It means it's time for director's comments. And we'll go start from the folks on the line. Chris, what say you? Anything?
Well said. Thank you.
Hardy.
As we're complete our first year here, I've learned quite a bit, and we'll see what happens going forward.
Kathy Siana.
All set. Good meeting. Thank you.
All right, Deb.
Well, it looks like my term is over, and I hope for the best for replacement board members for the high school. I appreciate all the time I've spent and the things I've learned, the people I've met, the arguments we've had, all the above. And I wish you good luck and goodwill into the new year. And I'll be listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Karen, how about you?
I'm really happy about what we accomplished today, I have to say, and oops, yes, I'm happy what we've accomplished today, and I just want to say that I felt like it was a very, responsible and interesting and insightful meeting.
Thank you for that. Cheryl.
Well, kind of building on what Deb Wright just said, I'd like to acknowledge and thank all of the board members who have served and who will not be serving after this point in time, in the sense that they've chosen not to continue their service. But I think that kind of community engagement, that kind of volunteerism is so important. So a deep debt of gratitude from me to all who have served in the past, and a welcome to those who will be joining us soon.
Molly.
I would like to thank Deb Wright and Jack Breyer for working on this board. Haven't worked a lot with Deb, but Jack, it's been a pleasure. Many phone calls have been made to your home. I've learned a lot. I think maybe I've taught you a few things too, if you'd admit it, but your knowledge is very respected, and I hope you change your mind and show back up to some meetings, because you've been a good board member for a lot of people. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I'm going to move to my immediate left.
Yeah. Being on a board takes time, but there are many qualities a board member should encompass: empathy, honesty above all else, integrity, transparency, a love for their community, passion for education, and a desire to make things the best for students while respecting the cost to taxpayers. It's a tough balancing act. I strive to go home from every meeting having worked for each of these. I encourage each member that becomes a member of any board to work on these as needed, and to reflect on what you've done at each meeting, making sure that you have lived up to these values. Thank you.
Mr. Riccardo.
Yes, I have a couple of comments. We got an email a week or so ago from Kate O'Connor with a thought exchange. And I looked at it, and in fact, I wrote a comment on it, and then it went away. And I thought, when I first read it, I thought that I would be able to go back and maybe put something else in it or read what other people had put in. I can't find it anywhere. So if I would ask for assistance in being able to re-access the thought exchange. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I received a copy of the goals, Andy's goals.
Yeah.
And I actually was pleased to read the goals. I was disappointed in that in order to have a goal, you have to have a measurement. And these goals do not, some of them are tougher to measure, but I mean, some are not that tough to measure. And I would hope that we're gonna have a chance, or somebody's gonna have a chance near term, I mean, this is now, because we've approved the contract, to include the measurement tool or the metric for each of these goals. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lynn?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. One of the things chairs get to do is have the last word, and I'm taking it, that opportunity.
Jason might want to say.
Oh, Jason, I'm sorry.
I don't have anything, Jack, thank you.
Well, appreciate it. One of the benefits of being chair is you get to have the last word sometimes, and I just want to tell you all here tonight and your predecessors, go back for better part of 20 years now, that it has been an honor to work with you all, to learn from you all, to have you tell me when I didn't know what I was talking about once in a while, though you were wrong, and that it has been a real, one of the real sublime pleasures of the last 20 years for me is a chance to work with you all as colleagues, and I hope in 99% of cases as friends. And I wish we had cleared the agenda a little bit better, because you all are going to have a lot of work together, those of you who return. But we did our best over this past year, and I hope that some of the structural changes we've made, that they stick, and that this board carries on. We're all replaceable. In fact, there's sort of a divine plan to have us all be replaced. And we need to recognize when it's our turn to step away. And hopefully I'll get a chance to do that and see some grandchildren. So thank you all. That's all I got.
Move to adjourn.
Next meeting, I knew there was something. There is a next meeting, and it's on March 29th at 6:30. Many of you may be aware of why. The first item will be reorganization of the board. Don't hang up your coats in case something comes up between now and election day. It's happened before, but hopefully this is your last meeting of this generation of the SU board.
That seems like a long time away.
That's why I said what I did.
Well, may I, so the bylaws for the SU is that it's on the fourth Wednesday of the month. And I was trying to take some vacation time, because the board chair told me to take vacation time.
Insisted.
Yes, insisted. And so we looked at when we could schedule all the different boards, because we have to seat all the different district boards before we can seat the SU board. So the week that I'm going on vacation would be the week I would normally try to seat all the boards.
But it's still the fourth Thursday, right?
Yeah.
No, that's.
It's actually the fifth, so it is a movement, but.
One thing I'd suggest to people is might consider, maybe not this year because it's too late, consider going forward, would be to have a to just do the board, have a board night and have all the boards meet and get that done, because that way these are fairly pro forma, and it's easier to do one than it is to do 4 or 5 of them. So this is a thought for the future.
Well, we haven't warned them yet, so we could possibly do that.
That's a discussion to have, but I'm not having it because I'm going to be entertaining a motion to adjourn.
All right, so we're.
All right, all in favor, stand up and leave. So thank you so much, everyone.
All right.